there's a lot of movement changes, blood cells going out, different materials forming inside of the blood cells. And so, you know, I sat one night and I replayed the video over and over again, and each time I just focused on one blood cell at a time so I could see the changes that were happening in that blood cell.
So now we have sort of looked at these images, and you have explained why they are not normal, why they are synthetic. But I guess the big discussion which you must be having in your community is what on earth is taking place? Where does this come from? How does it affect us? So you mentioned a few words. You mentioned the word transhumanism. You mentioned synthetic biology. So we're going to come to that. But if you just begin, you know, what is the main sort of theory that you have in your community about how does this enter into our blood? Is it not only from the vaccine? How do we get this into our system?
Well, you know, there's a scientist called Clifford Carnicom, who's titled a community scientist. He's American. He's been studying for about 40 years since there was this worse variant of Lyme disease known as Morgellons disease, and also when weird, great big bundles of fibrous strands that were several feet long that looked like chunks of spider web, massive chunks, started falling down on the highways in certain places in America. So somehow he basically decided to look into this curious disease the government kept debunking, that was completely wrecking people's health, and by area as well. And he began studying the materials that we now understand as chemtrails. So what he found was, interestingly, and this is fantastically interesting, he found, or he thought it was bacterial. And so a lot of his work, I think he said to me when I had spoken to him last year, he said, yes, some of the things that I thought were bacterial actually could be the synthetic constructs that you describe from your angle of work using dark field microscopy, staining, you know, dyes and basic chemical stuff. He said you could possibly overlap this synthetic framework with what he's found over the years in this product. So I think there is, to some degree, some involvement with these previous chronic diseases with chemtrail spraying that began way longer than we're aware now.
Can I ask you a question? So if I understand you correctly, what you're basically saying is that we are going through an era where we are being more and more, our bodies turned into synthetic biology, and everybody is getting this into our system from, as you call, chemtrails, from the water, from the air. So that raises the question then, why would they have to vaccinate the whole population, the world population, if we're still getting this into our blood?
Because I think, so there is studies, there was a page here that mentions that shedding, and it shows a medical institution's website page where this big medical organization is furious that fact checkers are saying that shedding is misinformation. Yet there are multiple studies confirming not only shedding and self-replication or self-synthesis as an implication, but it actually, I've been looking at the studies recently, which I didn't do so much because I was sticking to my own work for the most part, so I could see what was going on myself. And when I went to these papers, I start to see that it overlaps with everything that I'm personally seeing. They've done it. And so I think initially what one of the problems might be is, although this stuff is quite durable, I get the implication that under some circumstances, it doesn't spread and it doesn't work as effectively, and sometimes it does break down. So if you're spraying it, gets on surfaces, if it's there for too long, if there's too much UV light on it for so long, or intense light, or if it's too hot, then maybe you may slowly degrade some of the components in it. Whereas if you get a plant or an animal or a human being to become the manufacturing vesicle where the perfect conditions are met, because you have 37 degrees of the human body, the blood, which the product was designed to function in terms of stabilizing and recreating itself to distribute to other parts of the body, they create this ideal, lovely little bed for this stuff to, just get on and do what it wants to do. It's stable. It's not going to destroy itself in there. It's not exposed to sun. It's not exposed to, intense radio frequencies, whatever. And so now you say, well, this maybe builds a profile that in order for this stuff to function properly as it slowly takes over the human body, and I think we're quite a way there, is that it's exposure. You need to keep the exposure up in order for everybody to universally take these changes on. You certainly don't want half the population being sheltered from it, seeing all these other people go through changes, and then realizing, oh my God, this is what it is. So, of course, you try and keep this synchronicity. It goes with your plan as well. If you're planning that everyone has digital currency, no freedom of speech, has to log in via ID, and then we start putting them into their hamster cages, it's all done to a time. And I think as much as you see that in any other project or agenda away from biology, you see the same concepts and war strategy implementation is required within these same frameworks. There has to be a strategy. So there's something going on with that, but I won't profess to fully understand